Hi everyone, and welcome to recording 3 for Young Enterprise Scotland in conjunction with Kaplan Financial in Glasgow here. Today's recording is just to talk a little bit about banking and our cash handling and dealing with our stock and handling our stock as well. And then we're going to have a little bit of a chat about your next steps and just what you need to do and what you need to make sure is updated and all good to go for your final reports. So today's main aims, we're going to have to look at how we deal with our cash and how we handle our cash. We're going to have to think about stock as well. So most of you will probably be buying and selling products or making products to sell. So we'll need to think about the stock. And once we've dealt with that, we've already looked at our sales and our purchases and our debtors and credits in our previous recordings. So now we're going to have to think about all the information that you need to collate for those reports that you're going to have to submit for the competition. Okay, so let's have a little bit of a think about handling our cash. So with our business, we're going to be handling lots of cash, but we need to remember that dealing with lots of cash, it can be a risky area for us. There'll be lots of money changing hands. Hopefully, lots of people want to buy your products or services, and we'll be getting lots of cash in that way. So, if we've got the cash in our person or in our cash tins, if we've got too much cash, it's not going to gain any interest like it would in a bank account. So, we need to first think about that. The next thing, if we've got too much cash in our hands, there's a potential that it could go missing. Now, you guys have lots of people in your business, and I'm sure you all know each other and you're very trustworthy, but when you're dealing with cash in a business, one of the things is just to always remember, just trust no one. Okay, we always want to make sure that we have all our cash, and even if we've got our stall set up, we don't want people having the opportunity that they could steal it if they wanted to. So we just need to bear that in mind. So just a couple of tips, just for when you run your business, don't keep too much cash hanging around. Okay, what we might want to do is just think about on a regular basis, maybe every few days or once a week, any money you've got, if you've got too much money sitting in your cash tin or with the individuals that are running the business, let's just get that and put it in the bank account so it's nice and safe. So you can do a cash transfer, and don't forget, that we need to update our accounting records as well. Okay, so we've had a wee look at that before. We can transfer the cash and then update our system. Another thing, when you're looking at your cash on a weekly basis and how much we want to bank, let's do a bank reconciliation. Now, a bank reconciliation is something where businesses have a regular banking process. This allows us to check how much money we've got in the bank and how much money we've actually got in our person, and just making sure that everything is updated. So we want to make sure we're regularly dealing with our bank and reconciling the bank balance to make sure it's correct and there's nothing missing. So let's have a look at the reconciliation now. All a reconciliation does is we look at the balance that we've got per our bank account. Now, the easiest place to get that is probably from your bank statement or online banking if you're using that. We can look at that balance and compare it to what we've got on our Young Enterprise online account or on our accounting records within the company information. Now, hopefully, they should agree. We need to remember that we've got to record every single transaction that we deal with. Okay, so hopefully all the banking's been done. Anytime you transfer money over to the bank, you should update your accounting records and put that money in the bank. Now, hopefully they do agree, but we might have some differences to think about. Okay, now a difference isn't always a bad thing, but what we need to make sure we can do is explain that difference. So a couple of reasons that differences can occur. It might be that you've just sent some cash through to the bank, but maybe the bank haven't updated their records yet. Okay, so make sure you've got a record at your end that you've sent the money to the bank. It may just be a slight delay of a couple of days before it shows on your bank statement. Or maybe we've just forgot to post something on our system. Maybe we sent the money to the bank, but we forgot to post it online. So this is the reason why we need to make sure that everything's up to date. As long as we can explain our difference, then that's absolutely fine, and it will just be timing on the amounts. If we're unable to explain the difference, then it potentially is that money has gone missing, and hopefully it's not gone too far, and we can get that money back. Okay, but we just need to make sure we do this on a regular basis. So just over the page, I've put a little bit of a sample reconciliation here, okay? And you probably want to just have a spreadsheet, something like this, okay? So we can look at all the money that we've received into the bank account. We can also look at any payments that have came out of the account. And then we'll just compare our bank balance that's in our company accounts and compare that to the bank statement. If there is any difference, then as I said, we need to just make sure we know what it is. So you'll see we might have, for example, a timing difference where we've cashed a check and it's not shown up on the account yet, because they do take a few days. Okay, it might be just unrecorded receipts that we've completely forgot about. The other one that I didn't mention earlier, maybe something like a bank charge. So a bank charge you don't deal with day to day, and we probably wouldn't have thought about that to put through our accounts. But if we find that there's maybe a charge from the bank that we've not got on our system yet, just make sure we update the system so that both agree exactly the same. So now we've looked at the cash and banking side, the other thing we need to think about is stock. So if you've got a business that you're buying in some materials to make your products, or maybe you're just buying products that you're then going to sell on, if we have those, then we're going to have to think about our stock. Now, I know some of you might be using, for example, an app or something like that in your business, so maybe you don't have stock, but if you've got products that you're making or selling, then generally we're going to have stock to think about as well. So just like cash, you'll see we've got a photo there of a warehouse. There is a danger that things can happen to the stock. Okay, so just like the cash, we need to make sure we keep a record of it. So here's some of my thoughts just to think about. Make sure you keep a record of all the stock that goes in and out. Okay, so you're going to be buying in materials or products. We need to record those purchases. We then hopefully are able to sell our stock. That's some stock that's going to come out of our stockpile. So we need to make sure that we record the fact that that's gone out. We might also have, and hopefully not, but if you had any returns of faulty stock, so just make sure if anything comes back in, that again, just like your purchases, we record that addition back into our stock. Okay, so this is something that we probably want to do on a regular basis. Now, this is something that all sort of shops and businesses who deal with stock, quite often they'll do stock takes. So if it was a supermarket, you'll see people going round. They've got electronic systems, or maybe a little bit more advanced than us, but small newsagents, for example, they will record in what they buy and they'll record what they sell through the till, and that allows them to make sure that their stock is there and make sure that nothing goes missing. So just in order to make sure that nothing goes missing as well, make sure wherever you keep your stock is a safe environment. Make sure it's clear of anything else. There's nothing else it can get mixed up with. Maybe it's a secure room where you've got a lock, so you can lock the door and only people involved in your business get access to it. The other thing, just make sure nothing gets damaged. So if it's fragile items, make sure they're marked as fragile, and make sure that in a place where no one's going to trip over them. So we need to just, as I say, keep records of all our stock, okay? And that's going to include the costs, because one thing, as we'll see shortly, we need to use those costs at the end for our final report. So we need to make sure that at that final report we have the amount that our stock is actually worth. So in order to make sure we know what our stock is worth, we're going to need to keep some stock sheets. So I've given you a little example here of a stock sheet. Okay, so what we'll do, as I say, hopefully on a sort of weekly or monthly basis, we can start off when we first start our business, we'll have our stock, and we need to make a record of that stock. So you'll see on here, I've got details about the item type, so just a little description that makes it clearly distinguishable from other items, and we can make sure we know what stock is what. We're also going to then have notes about the number of units. So for example, I've got a note there about my small boxes, and I've got 40 boxes. Okay, I'm then going to have the cost that each unit was to me as the business. Now, hopefully we're going to sell them for more and make a profit, but that was the cost to me. So I'm saying the cost per unit is 50 pence per small box. So if I've got 40 boxes, that means that the total cost for all those items was £20. Now I can do that for all my items, and you'll see I've also got some paper cups and some glass jars there as well. So I've got the number of units and the cost per unit and the total cost. And what that allows me to do on a regular basis is I can then start to record what I've sold, and I can reduce down my stock and record my sales as we've looked at earlier. And what should happen is at the end of the week or at the end of the month, I can check this. I can make sure that the check for my stock, the sheet that I've got, should agree exactly to the stock that I've got in front of me. So you'll see just above my items and my number of units, you'll see I've got a section for date produced, and I've got two sections for name and signature. The reason we want to have the date produced is so that we can have a regular update and we can keep track of our stock. Why have two people? Well, as we said, stock is something that could be stolen. So maybe you're making some nice tasty chocolates. There might be a danger that someone tries to steal them. Okay, so the reason we have two people is that two people together, there's maybe less chance of that happening. It also means if you've got lots and lots of materials and lots of sort of big amounts of maybe lots of small things, we can make sure that it's counted correctly, because yeah, we might have a finance director who's a bit of a whiz kid with maths, but everyone makes mistakes. So let's get two people to check it and make sure it's okay, and that way we should make sure that our stock control is nice and tight and secure. So that's us looked at stock. We've looked at our cash and banking. So the next thing we need to think about is our reporting for a year end. Now, with our year end report, we've quite fortunate that we've got Young Enterprise Online, which is our system, okay? But we've reached the end of the year. What do we do? Okay, then we've got a couple of checks. We just need to make sure that everything is complete. We need to make sure that we've recorded all our transactions. So make sure that every single sale and every single purchase, debtors, creditors, all of these things are recorded. We need to make sure that our balances are all right for the end of year to do our report. Make sure that you do a final reconciliation of your cash. So make sure that the amount that you've got in the bank agrees exactly to what you should have on your accounting system. If we've got any cash in our person, we might want to think about putting that in our bank account and making sure everything is nice and tidy before we close down our business. So we're going to have a final bank reconciliation, and as we've just established, we also might have some stock left over if we've not been able to sell it all, so we'll want to do a final stock check. Once we know that we've got everything recorded and we're sure that everything is correct, then what we do is we're going to get all our transactions into what's called a final trial balance. So this is just a list of all the debit and credit transactions that we're going to have that are going to go into a report. So we're going to have recordings of our sales, our purchases, any expenses. We're going to have potentially some debtors, potentially some creditors if we still owe people money as well. And we're going to have our stock figure. So we need to make sure that all of these figures are correct and in order so that we can do our final report. So on Young Enterprise Online, you hopefully by now should know where your company accounts are, but if not, if you go up on the top bar to company information and then you go to company accounts, and that's where we record all our receipts and payments, and we can run all our reports from here also. So you will see a bit in the middle of the page there that says generate a new set of reports. Now you'll see it talks about our closing stock. So we need to make sure that our stock figure is right. That's particularly important before we generate any reports. That's going to make sure that the figure is right for our year-end accounts. Okay, so we'll look at all the materials, any products, anything that's part finished, and we'll have values for it, and that will allow us to generate our new reports and make them nice and clean and correct. So we'll be able to generate the reports, and you'll see the bit that I've highlighted in blue there is our extended trial balance. So as I said, this is just a list of all our debits and credits that we've got. So just in case you're unsure, I'm going to go quickly to my company reports and I'll show you how that's done. So if you go to company information and then you go to company accounts on your online account, that then brings up our reports, and what we can do once we ensure that we've got all our receipts, all our payments, all our debtors and creditors recorded, we can then start to think about these reports. So let's just say, for talking sake, I had calculated out my closing stock and it was £135. So I would type that in there and then I can click generate reports. And it will take a few seconds, but that will update my information. Now, once I've done that, I can go to my extended trial balance. Now, the extended trial balance, you will see I've got lists of debits and credits, and it's split out by my receipts and payments, if I've done any bank transfers, and then you'll see to the right I've got figures for profit and loss and balance sheet. So these are the figures that I would put straight in. Now what I need to do is go down to the bottom and the bit that says totals, I need to make sure that the debit and the credit in each of the columns for receipts and payments, transfers, now my transfers is okay for me here, and my profit and loss and balance sheet, I need to make sure that the debits and credits are all the same. So once I've established they're all the same and it balances, then we're on track. Okay, if everything balances, then that means I've hopefully recorded all my transactions correctly. And the only thing that the trial balance won't do though, and it relies on a bit of input from you guys, is make sure that you have recorded absolutely everything. I cannot stress that enough. We need to make sure all our sales and purchases and things like that are recorded, because even if we had posted them correctly, if we've missed them out, we've missed out a debit and a credit. So it would still balance. So it's the only thing it doesn't pick up. So just watch out for that, guys, and make sure that everything is recorded before you run your final trial balance. Once you've got that final trial balance, then that allows you to complete your final report. And you'll be able to take your financial information into your report to complete the full thing for the competition. So we can go and we can complete our profit and loss account. Okay, and they'll give us details of that, and we can print that off as well. And we've also got our balance sheet, and we can print that off. And that will allow us to start completing our final reports for our overall company report for the business. So, just as an overall summary to make sure we've got everything, when we're running the business, all the kind of main transactions that we've got, we're going to be recording our sales and recording our purchases. Now, don't forget that we need to charge VAT on our sales, and we also need to incur VAT on our purchases. So we've already looked at how to deal with that. We need to make sure we keep an eye on the people that we owe money to, our creditors, and the people that owe us money, who are our debtors. We need to make sure that if we've agreed a certain amount of time for people to pay, that they've been chased up if they've not paid us, and that we pay things on time as well. We're going to be doing weekly bank reconciliations, making sure that our cash and our bank are all accounted for and in order. And the same with our stock. Make sure that your stock is getting updated as we sell items. If we buy any more, that it gets recorded as coming in, and we make sure it's recorded safely and it's secure. Once we've done that, we need to make sure all those transactions are recorded, and we can run that trial balance to make sure it balances. That then allows us to run our trial balance, which can go in to produce our final report, and you'll get all the information on the Young Enterprise online site. And we need to remember as well, we're going to have to pay our taxes and liquidate our company, unless we maybe want to look at, down the line, continuing our business in some shape or form. So hopefully that's been helpful for you and helps you just to make sure that everything we've got is in order and everything is completed from the point of finance. Now, as I've said before, please do not hesitate to get in contact with the Kaplan Centre if you've got any questions. I'm sure any of us will be more than happy to help you. We realise that not everyone is finance minded, and that's why we're here. We're experienced tutors. We know and have worked in businesses, and we know how to prepare accounts. And particularly if you come against any problems, we're usually quite good at sorting things and helping you. Now, we're not going to do all the work for you because it's your business and you guys make the decisions, but you never know. There might be something that you need help with, and that's one thing in business. Don't be afraid to ask for help. So that's us. That's all the recordings that we've got for you. So hopefully you'll be able to use them, and you can dip in and out of them whenever you want. And if you have any questions, don't forget to contact us. Thanks very much for listening, and best of luck in the competition at the end of the year.